Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I'm very grateful to the devotees of Theravada Dharma Society of Del City, San Francisco, California, USA, for inviting me to give a short Dharma talk on today, July 4th, 2012. I thought of reflecting on the Dharma that you find in the Dhammapada, the first two phrases. The first phrase goes like this: all actions are led by the mind. Mind is their maker. Mind is the chief. Act or speak with impure state of mind, and suffering will follow you, as the cat's wheel follows you, or follows the foot of the ox that pulls it. So this is a very, very powerful analogy the Buddha gave. It has two implications. One of it is the distance between the cat's wheel and the foot of the ox that pulls it. I was in Burma one time in Bago, Sadhu Pandita's monastery. I saw this cow was pulling a cart full of merchants, but it was not happy. It was a burden. It was so heavy. So when we act with impure state of mind, with greedy hatred and delusion, this becomes a burden, and we suffer without even knowing that we are going to suffer, because we cannot connect between suffering and its cause. But in this phrase, it's very clear that once we do something with impure state of mind, suffering is going to follow. The implication also of the distance between the cat's wheel and the foot of the ox is very interesting, because there's a gap always, but still the wheel always catches up with the foot of the ox. It keeps on going, and follow it up wherever it goes. It's amazing, because it's the same thing that happens whenever we do something. Let's say we use abusive words, we get into strong emotions, and then we utter something not skillful, and then we hurt other people's feelings. After a while, we start regretting, oh, why did I say this? Maybe what I said is wrong. And then we are going to live the rest of our life in self-guilt. We have a lot of anxiety. So these two things actually are very important to remember, because every time if we remember this, we are not going to act out of greed, hatred, and delusion, because we know suffering is going to follow us. Even if, let's say for instance, we do something unskillful, and then we get a lawyer to help us to overcome a certain case. We give them a lot of money and we get away with the case. But still after years, it's going to dawn on you and say, oh, maybe what I did was not skillful. That's why I'm suffering. So this is a very important phrase to remember. The second phrase, the Buddha said that all actions are led by the mind. Mind is the chief, mind is the maker. act or speak with a pure state of mind, and happiness is going to follow you as the shadow follows you without ever departing. So this is a very beautiful analogy, simile, because when we do something with a pure state of mind, that means with loving kindness, with generosity, with wisdom and understanding, happiness always follows us immediately. So this simile has two implications. One is the immediacy of that shadow. Whenever you travel around and you look at your shadow, it's always available, it's immediate. So there's no distance between an object or a person and the shadow. So whenever you act out of this pure state of mind, let's say you practice generosity, loving kindness, and you cultivate wisdom, there is always that happiness following immediately as you are doing something. Let's say you perform dana. Then, as you are giving something, you feel happy that you are making a difference in somebody's life. So, even when you finish giving something to somebody, you feel happy. There's also another implication about this is the lightness of the shadow. Who has ever had a problem to carry the shadow? Do you have a problem to carry your shadow? No. You always move around with your shadow and you never feel even the weight. So when you do something which is skillful, with a pure state of mind, you are going to enjoy your happiness without that burden. There is no burden. Whenever you feel happy, you feel joy, you feel light. That's why I think the shadow is the lightest thing to carry around, because you never feel its weight. The same when you do something good, you are always happy, full of joy. So for me, this has served as a guideline to choose between suffering and happiness. We have the choice. There, in the first two phrases of the Dhammapada, the Buddha mentioned it clearly. It's a kind of a menu we can choose. It's a short menu. We can choose to act out of greed, hatred, and delusion, and then suffering is going to follow us. When we act out of generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, and we'll be happy. I think with this short time I have, I will offer this for your reflection, and let this be your guidelines in your life. You can use this and these phrases for your children or for your friends, and it can serve as a reminder. You can put it on a refrigerator. You can put it on a doorway before you go. You remind, before you go out, you just read this. Then you reflect on this as you're going through your life. Or if I act with greed, hatred, and delusion, suffering is going to follow. If I act with loving kindness, generosity, and wisdom and understanding, I'll be happy. I think throughout the day, if you remember this, then you are going to be a happy person, you are going to give up suffering, and you are going to cultivate happiness. With this, I wish you a happy life, and may all beings be well, happy, and peaceful.